If you had to do it all over again, would you vote for Donald Trump again, yes or no?
Yes, I would. Now, in the future, I am not a diehard Democrat or diehard Republican. If there were a Democratic candidate who was more aligned for me, then I would vote Democrat.
If you go back in time, would you vote for Donald Trump, yes or no?
Yes.
I think I might know the answer on this next one.
She said yes. It's immediately yes. No, I'm sorry.
If you had to do it all over again, would you vote for Donald Trump, yes or no?
1,000% absolutely yes.
How the hell did Donald Trump figure out the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes? How did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it was a movement. Look,
heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen. So everybody keeps, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that, how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
Court, the popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime. And we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary.
Boy. So we got to talk about the black bourgeoisie. They are upset because CNN aired a segment where Van Jones was interviewing Trump supporters, black Trump supporters, and they thought that they better get the black Trump supporters with race bait and gotchas, right? They thought they'd be able to guilt trip the black Trump voters into regretting their votes for President Trump. However, that didn't happen. And because of that, the black liberals, like Roland Martin and others, are upset, right? They're boo-hoo-wide and they cried. And one of the reasons why they are upset is because that is their job, right? Every time you have a black person that comes out and says, hey, I'm a conservative, I support Trump, I don't agree with the Democrat Party, the black liberals tilling the Democrat plantation, they come out of the woodwork and they get upset, right? They go back and they try to rescue the runaway slaves, right? Because white liberal masses told them that, hey, these blacks, they don't want to till the Democrat plantation anymore. They've ran away. You got to go get them, right? Go get them and bring them back. And that is basically what Roland Martin is doing in his reaction to this interview from CNN, because everybody knows Roland Martin, okay? When he sees a black person that does not agree with the Democrat Party, that is a Trump voter, he always has to
jump in his ass. You got to jump in his ass. Jump in his ass. His ass. You got to push back immediately. Jump in his ass.
So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Okay, y'all think I'm gonna do that? I'm gonna mess with y'all and say this to take y'all out.
I thought you loved this man because he's so authentic and he's such a truth teller.
But you need to know the difference between somebody trolling somebody, and this is a prime example of him being a troll.
If you had to do it all over again, would you vote for Donald Trump again, yes or no?
Yes, I would. Now, in the future, I am not a diehard Democrat or diehard Republican. If there were a Democratic candidate who was more aligned for me, then I would vote Democrat.
If you go back in time, would you vote for Donald Trump, yes or no?
Yes.
I think I might know the answer on this next one.
She said yes. It's immediately yes. No, I'm sorry.
If you had to do it all over again, would you vote for Donald Trump, yes or no?
1,000% absolutely yes.
John, those are three of the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so let me just unpack what I heard. Now I know Morgan's like, oh no, you can't go there. Actually, I can go there because those are three idiots. First and foremost.
Well, I want to hear the rationale.
No, here's why.
Yeah, I want to hear the rationale too, right? I want to hear the rationale because I don't think they're dumb. I think they're pretty smart, right? I think that they've got a lot of bang for their buck. As a black person in this country, the number one issue for black people should be immigration, right? There should be no other issue that is more important to black people than immigration, especially black men. And we all know that Roland Martin, he supports the Democrat Party. So he supports open borders, right? He supports illegals coming into the country and depressing your wages, competing with black men for jobs, right? Because that's who the illegals are competing with. Whether or not people want to acknowledge that or not, that is the reality of the situation. But let's hear what Roland has to say, his rationale behind why these Trump voters are so dumb.
First of all, when the woman in red, yeah, I was listening to Candace Owens. We know she lies. We know she just lies. Well, I was listening to Candace Owens and I read her book. Okay, you're listening to a grifter. Okay, so she's not giving you factual information. She's a grifter. Let's go to this idiot dude who needs a haircut. Okay, so he's sitting here. Yeah, TikTok is the holy grail. I'm not getting my information from news channels. I'm getting it from TikTok. Here's what we know based upon polling. People who got information from news sources voted more so for Harris because they got factual information. Folk who got their information from non-news sources, they voted for Trump.
See, he says this as if that means that Trump supporters are uninformed, right? Or they are misinformed because Trump voters don't get their news from mainstream liberal media, right? Trump voters actually do their own research and they don't believe all the propaganda that comes out of the mainstream liberal media. Now, again, the reason why the people who consume mainstream liberal media vote Democrat is because, again, the media is overwhelmingly biased towards Democrats. That doesn't mean that they're getting their information from factual sources. That's actually not what it means because, again, these are the same liberal media outlets that told us that inflation was transitory, that the border's not open, that crime is down, that Joe Biden's the sharpest he's ever been. And if you don't believe that, then F you, right? These are the same liberal media outlets that told us that Kamala Harris was winning the 2024 election, that she was ahead of Trump, right? That she was so amazing. I mean, we can't forget about all the lies that were told during COVID, right? Especially when it comes to the vaccine. Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, except it was real. So again, I'm trying to figure out how is it that watching the mainstream liberal media, when they've told lie after lie after lie after lie after lie on behalf of the Democrat Party, how does that make you more informed, right? I think that actually really makes you indoctrinated in Democrat Party propaganda. That's what they actually really mean here. So if you're getting your information from the mainstream liberal media, that doesn't mean that you're getting more quote unquote factual or true or correct information than you would be getting from alternative news sources. It just means that you're getting the information that the corporate liberal media establishment wants you to get, right? That's all it means. Okay. That's all it means. But see, what Roland Martin is trying to do here is that he's trying to frame Trump supporters as unsophisticated. Well, they don't get their news from real news sources, so they must be uneducated or uninformed. That's the only way that they can vote for Trump. And the leftists, they love this, right? They love this kind of elitist propaganda that they put out here about Trump supporters because they really want people to think that Trump supporters are mouth-breathing idiots, right? When that's actually not the case. Trump supporters are actually very sophisticated. In fact, I would argue that a sophisticated person, an intelligent person, would recognize the bias of the mainstream liberal media, the bias of the news, and they would diversify their news sources, right? A sophisticated person would not only watch alternative news, but they would also watch regular news as well too, to get a balance, right? To get both perspectives, and then you can use critical thinking in order to come to your own conclusion. That actually describes a vast majority of Trump supporters, right? And what describes a vast majority of liberals, okay, people that watch Roland Martin show, again, these are people who are getting all of their news from biased liberal media news sources, and they're not really critically thinking or thinking outside of the box, right? These are the people who are actually not sophisticated or not very informed when it comes to the issues, right? So again, it's just funny because I'm hearing some projection, right, from Roland Martin here, to be honest with you.
So right there, he's listening to people who don't know what the hell they're talking about. Then, oh, I kind of like it that he's an asshole. Okay. I don't know how you can run against that, because if you just choose not to be an idiot, I mean, I don't know how you could do that. But then you got the other woman, I'm sick of black people who don't try to do something to fix the situation. I'm sorry. Those three were in North Carolina. I recall something called Moral Mondays. The environmental justice movement began in that state. They have been fighting fascism in North Carolina since Obama won in 2008. And then this, my husband's trying to be a cop and these bad things they say about cops. Would you like us to do the roll call of black people who have been killed by cops?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. You could do that roll call, but we can also do the roll call of white people who've been killed by cops, and it's going to be much longer. It's going to be much longer, right? I mean, the point of what she was saying is that, hey, I don't like the fact that we have a lot of anti-police sentiments in the black community, and my husband is going to be a police officer, and that negatively affects him, right? That may negatively affect him. So I don't like that. And that's a perfectly reasonable and valid point, right? Not every black person has to be obsessed with all the black people who are quote unquote victims of police brutality. A vast majority of the time, justified, by the way, okay, because the people who tend to be victims of police brutality tend to be criminals, right? They tend to have long rap sheets and they tend to interact with the police quite a bit, okay? But if you are a law-abiding citizen, a law-abiding black person, your chances of experiencing so-called police brutality is like zero, right? So, yeah, I mean, every black person does not have to be obsessed with this false narrative about how police brutality is such a big issue in the black community. It's not, right? It's just not for law-abiding black people. For criminals, maybe, but for law-abiding black people, police brutality is just not an issue, right, at all. I mean, I personally worry much more about the defund the police movement, the anti-cop movement in this country, than I do about being a victim of police brutality, because I'm not a criminal, so I don't ever have to worry about interacting with police in a negative way like that.
Would you like for us to actually do that? I mean, so people like that, I mean, to be perfectly honest, there are some black people who I think are so delusional and so out to lunch, you're not going to reach them. I don't believe that that's who you should be going after.
AKA, we can't bring them back to the plantation, right? They're far gone. They've escaped, okay? They're north of the Mason-Dixon line, right? See, this is why I try to tell you guys, it's funny to me how these liberals, these black liberals, love calling black conservatives tap dancers. And I'm like, well, what is this? Right? If this is not tap dancing, I don't know what is, right? This is textbook tap dancing. This guy's sole purpose, his sole thing is, well, I don't like these people because they voted for Trump, but they're too far gone, right? They're too far gone. We can't bring them back to the Democrat plantation. Again, is that not tap dancing, right? Like, is this not like a performance, right? Is this not a minstrel show, right? It's just kind of funny how that works. I keep calling black conservatives all of these things, but yet you got these black liberals. Clearly, this guy is tap dancing like crazy. He is pissed that a black person decided to think differently than him when it comes to politics. Now, he's admitting that these black people are, quote unquote, too far gone to bring back to the Democrat Party plantation. Again, pretty hilarious stuff.
Not those three. You're not going after them, okay? Because if you're so willing to believe lies, and then you promote the lie that you heard, and it's not even remotely factual, then what in the hell, how in the hell do you counter that level of stupidity?
So I can comment on this. From working on campaigns, we have a universe of voters we call persuadables. And a previous comment stated that there are some things that Democrats, liberals need to improve on. And Roland, you touched on it. Informed people voted for Kamala Harris. But here's the problem here. The majority of Americans are still not college educated, and Democrats slipped with every non-college educated demographic. Even with Black Americans, that was Trump's strongest group of Black Americans were Black people without a college degree. And so I think that part of putting out misinformation is being able to message people who might not be as educated as us, who might not understand things as easily as we do. We've got to learn how to break it down Barney style, as we used to put it in the military.
Wow.
We have got to explain things to the hood, explain things to the holler, explain things to people who might not get it and don't easily get it. That is going to be the key to saving democracy, because in 2024, it's a fact. No after action report shows us doing well with people without college degrees, and we've got to figure out a way to stop them from falling into the misinformation rabbit hole. We got to stop these Gen Z men. One of those guys was a Gen Z man. We got to stop these Gen Z men from falling into the misinformation rabbit hole.
Wow. This is a type of smug elitism that I can't stand from Democrats, right? Because if you listen to them, essentially, again, what they're saying is that, well, because these people disagree with me, they're dumb. Now, there were no substantive criticisms of anything that these Trump supporters said, right? There was no pushback on the policies or anything like that. It was nothing but ad hominem. Well, they're dumb. They must be not college educated. They're not very smart. Okay, they don't watch the mainstream liberal media, aka they're not indoctrinated, right? That's what they're getting to, right? That's what they're getting at. They're really getting at, well, these people are not indoctrinated. They don't watch the mainstream liberal media, which is indoctrination, and some of them haven't went to college, which again is a form of indoctrination. That's really what they are admitting. So it's not really about intelligence or sophistication for them, okay? No, it's really about whether or not you are indoctrinated into the programming, right? And that's essentially what they're talking about. How, hey, we have to indoctrinate these Black people into the programming. We got to try to figure out how do we reach these people who aren't college educated, who don't watch the mainstream liberal media. How do we talk to them and how do we reach them? Well, to me, it seems like the answer that they have is to talk down to those people. Again, it's to call them dumb or unintelligent for not having a college degree or not watching the mainstream liberal media, when those things have, in my opinion, not much to do with actual intelligence, right? There are very, very, very smart people who didn't go to college, because at least they were smart enough, unlike the quote unquote most educated demographic in the country, not to take on hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt to get degrees that are never going to allow them to get jobs that will pay off the student loan debt, right? So again, it's just so funny to me how these people continue to poke fun at people who didn't go to college as quote unquote uneducated, but yet they were smart enough not to go and take out loans, hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans for degrees that aren't worth it, right? They were smart enough to make that very, very, very basic and significant financial decision in their lives, right? And a lot of them are much better off than, again, some of these so-called educated people who did decide to go to college, right? Who got all this education that ain't worth the damn thing on the free market. And they're begging the same people that they call so dumb. Oh, you didn't go to college, you're dumb. Okay, well, why are you begging those non-college educated people to bail out your student loans, right? Why are you begging for that? Why are you begging these people who you claim are so dumb and so stupid that don't understand anything, that are simple, right? Need to be talked to like Barney, right? That's what this guy said. Why are you asking them to bail out your student loans? If you're so smart and you're so intelligent, why'd you take out a loan in the first place? Why'd you do it? That wasn't a very smart decision, right? So again, it's absolutely amazing. They're trying to put down the same people that they're begging for handouts from, right? Ain't it hilarious how that works? So like I said, going to college or choosing to go to college is not a sign of intelligence. It's not a sign that you are smarter than somebody that didn't go to college, or that you're even more educated, because again, a vast majority of stuff that you learn in college, you can literally learn online, right? You can learn on YouTube. It's probably better for you to learn it online and on YouTube than going to college, to be honest with you, again, when you look at the cost. And then on top of that, when you look at some of our most innovative people in society, leading CEOs, business folks, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, Michael Dell, others, they didn't complete college. Right? So are they stupid? Are they uninformed? Are they dumb? because they didn't go to college. Again, as if college or degree means that you're intelligent. You can be an idiot and get a degree, right? You can be a complete and total idiot and get a degree. So again, conflating college education with intelligence is dumb, right? Also, on top of that, inflating being informed with how much you watch the mainstream liberal media news also is stupid as well too. But again, where this comes from, again, is a place of elitism, right? That's all it is, okay? This is smug elitism that normal, regular, everyday people hate. Because like I said, at the end of the day, right, when it comes to regular, everyday, normal black folks, especially working class black men, the biggest issue that black men should be worried about is illegal immigration, which also means that black women should be worried about this issue as well too, because the biggest issue for black men should also concern black women, because black women should be supporting black men, right? And again, when you have something like illegal immigration that disenfranchises black men, yeah, that's something that black women should be concerned about, right? That should be the number one priority of the black community. And President Trump has done an amazing job on that. That in and of itself, in my opinion, warrants a vast majority of black people abandoning the Democrat Party and supporting Trump, right? A vast majority of black people should be very thankful what President Trump has done on the illegal immigration issue, because it is an actual real threat to the black community. That's just the facts, right? When you talk about economic power, when you talk about political power, when you talk about representation, illegal immigration and abortion, okay, two issues that, again, Democrats are 100% for. Again, those two issues hurt the black folks the most, right? But again, the so-called pro-blacks, they will have you signing up for your own demise, right? They will sign up for your own demise. And if you don't want to sign up for your own demise, then you must be dumb. You must be uninformed. You must be uneducated. That's how these people think. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.